Hello and welcome to Writing. I'm Farrell D. Moore and I'm your host for this episode, which is titled The Witches Brew of Writing. Writers in politics, it's hard to write good fiction. Very few of us write great fiction. Fewer still write great fiction capable of truly transforming readers' hearts and minds. We're afraid to try and really we don't think we're up to the noble task. So mostly we join writers' groups, live in fear of critiques and workshop. Instead of exploring the world around us, dissecting it and imagining how to put it together in a better way, we network with other writers, agents, editors, and publishers. We measure our success or lack thereof in number of positive tweets, number of likes, and our comments on our Facebook page, or number of blog visitors measured by the great bean counter of the internet, Google Analytics. The thrill and exultation of writing our first novel fades when no one much pays attention. It turns to mortified rejection when it's first rejected by an agent. By the sixth or seventh rejection, our writing life may be measured in terms of how many milligrams of Valium the doctor prescribes or how many glasses of wine we imbibe on any given day. In between this dark night of the soul and our first real success, many writers develop the Lemming syndrome. If there's an emotional cliff anywhere within miles of where they live, they feel compelled to do the zombie walk to it and jump off, making sure their reputations crash to the bottom with them. The Lemming syndrome occurs mostly when we know that we want to write, but realize we really aren't good enough yet to write something of lasting value. That's when we commit the terrible sin of trying to teach others to write. And it is terrible. When as writers, we have done this to the point that we realize we are welcome in writing circles as relatives who belch fire. We panic and commit the most heinous writing sins. We begin to blather away in public about politics. We have drunk from the witch's brew. We post political materials on Facebook. We're enraged by the opposition party. We make fun of their candidates, deride them as small-minded or dangerous or out of touch. We scream slogans we'd be ashamed to hear other primaries promoting. We Twitter like there's no tomorrow. Each election is the most important of our lifetime. We not only agree, we shout it from the rooftops. It's safer than taking a risk with our writing. We do this because we're too lazy to write novels that would change the hearts and minds of others. We're afraid. It takes too much work. It's risky. We're not, after all, Dostoevsky, Victor Hugo, Harriet Beecher Stowe, or John Steinbeck. What if nobody likes our serious writing? What if it's politically unpopular? Better stick with genre. The same writers who are proud to the point of stridency about hyperactive addiction to discussing endlessly the political evils of our world do very little in the way of creating powerful fiction. Talk is cheap. The cost of great fiction is your heart, your soul, and your mind. You must invest your everything into it. The Grapes of Wrath took us so long to time back, believe me. Are you wasting your time writing ubiquitous fiction? Is it because you no longer believe in the power of fiction to change hearts and minds, or is it just your own fiction you doubt? Leave the socially powerful writing to the very talented few, you say. Leave the heavy lifting to the strong writers. Someday, you say, you'll write a social novel, one that will change the world, or maybe not just embarrass you. But it has to be later, you say. It's 2020, and we have to discuss politics and talk and talk and talk and talk. Why not write? What will that change, you ask? If you aim low, well, you can never fall too far, and you've forgotten why you write. That's what happens when you drink the witch's brew. You quit believing in yourself and the muscular power of the written word. The writer and the living dead. A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of small minds, Ralph Waldo Emerson said that. But I like what Wile E. Coyote said. Wile E. Coyote, super genius. I like the way it rolls out. Sometimes you just have to scrape them off the windshield. Zombie writers. The ones who shuffle mindlessly down the street with nowhere particular to go or be, and the only word they can spell correctly is, well, hungry. But they should have seen it coming. This reporter saw it coming. Writers' rear ends are getting much larger. They drank the witch's brew, the one labeled I don't have to leave this chair. Google will save me. So now they wander the literary streets, wondering why their writing doesn't ring true. Doesn't sound authentic. Sounds kind of like it was made up. Actually, it was made up. Worse yet, Hemingway was right. People that never leave their writer's chairs get kind of big on the back end. This is great, one zombie-sized writer told me. I can write stories that happen anywhere in the world. I don't have to travel. I just use Google Earth. She asked to remain anonymous, so I'm leaving her name out of this interview so I can blackmail her later. I mean, use it to advantage later. I hope she doesn't watch this video. But do you truly get a feel for that country, I asked? Enough for your readers to trust you, to allow you the convincing narrative authority, enabling them to suspend their disbelief and enter completely into your story. And do you have to keep eating to read us while we talk? Don't they have like 1,000,000 calories per bag? She twirled a wild lock of red hair and smiled. Honey, most of my readers keep watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians. The rest of them actually don't believe Dancing with the Stars is rigged. And I can eat all the Doritos I want, dear. I just ordered the Brazilian butt makeover, so calories don't count. It said so on the infomercial. You don't seem to like your readers, I said. You get all the information in your books from Google and infomercials. Is that why you have a Ginsu knife as the murder weapon in one of your murder mysteries? I love my readers, she said. My readers worship me. But you don't really go out and experience life so that you have something to share with them. How can they trust you with matters of emotional truth if you don't really have a life? You never seem to leave your computer chair. Aren't you just recycling third-party information? Why don't you get up from your chair and see and smell the towns you're writing about and talk to the people? She actually recoiled in her chair. I felt terrible. Clearly, I'd reminded her of past experiences where she actually saw her friends instead of Facebooking them. Times when she actually walked city streets to know what they were like. Those were the days when she knew the nuancial difference between the word mean, as was used in Mean City Streets, and as a participating adjective in the movie titled Mean Girls. I was about to apologize when I saw her on Facebook, cutting and pasting conversations. What are you doing? I gasped. Collecting dialogue for my next book, she said vaguely. You don't write your own dialogue? You cut and paste it from Facebook? You have no feelings, no writer's hearts. You can't write about reality, I screamed, if your only reality comes from a computer monitor. Dialogue should come from your created character's heart. Without looking up, she said, you get some good dialogue off of Twitter sometimes, but you've got to really look hard. I left the interview with the journalistic epiphany. When zombieized writers throw themselves against the windshield of your life, this journalist says, just to keep driving. The ninja and the writer. My instructor for many years was a ninja grandmaster. He is a darkly complex and dangerous man. His teaching left an indelible impression on me, and I will be indebted to him always. He taught me all that I need to know about writing. One day he asked me to clench my hands into fists and stand just close enough to a wall so that my fists touched it. Turn your head to the right, and then turn it back to face the wall, he said. What do you see? The wall, I said. Not that, you dumbass. Look at your fists. I looked more carefully at my fists. They were a quarter-inch from the wall. Now turn your head back to the left and back. What do you see? They're touching the wall, I observed. Although I didn't know why it was, but you figured out why? No, I said. When you do, you'll know a lot more about the way a ninja thinks than you do now. Here's a short form. Understanding body dynamics is the key to successful ninja techniques. What does that mean for writers, though? It means that a writer has to understand how their own mind works in order to write well. That is the reason for years I've said a writer should understand the way he thinks, imagines, and feels, because this knowledge is critical to good writing. Deal with the creator first, and the creation will follow. The Witches Brew is to concentrate only on the story and ignore the writer. It is the writer, after all, who produces a story, not the other way around. Know what excites you, what makes you cry, what makes you laugh, what makes you angry. Understand your need for justice and your need for recognition, what drives you, what slows you down. If you understand these things about yourself, you will have a compelling narrative voice. The writer and the pirate. Pirates can't write with a dam, but they're always giving advice and pushing that bottle of rum at you. Don't do it. Don't take even a single sip. Years at sea, and most of them don't have a gold doubloon to their name. But they go on and on about buried treasure and stormy seas, slapping the tavern table and spilling the rum everywhere. Eyes darting around the room looking for danger, while whispering to you about bloody battles and captured damsels, dead men tell no tales, and skeleton fingers pointing the way. They push their witches brew at you. Strong female characters, strong male characters, fatal flaws, characters just like the ones you've seen on television and movies, just like the ones you've read about in other books. Actually, that's where they get them. You're almost convinced. Pirates know the writing, don't they? They sound like they really know what they're talking about. They have an eye patch over one eye, and the other is lit like a lantern so you can follow with confidence to the shores of writing success. Look closer, though. It's actually a skeleton holding that lantern. Pirate writers, you see, are just skeletons. There's no meat on their bones. There's no meat on the characters' bones either. They're not real. They're simply pirated from the stories and scripts that someone else created. That's why we call them pirates. They don't do what real writers do. It's why so many characters in so many books, TV shows, and movies seem alike. It's because they are alike. Readers are desperate for truly original characters. They don't want fool's gold from pirates. Don't be a pirate writer. But while it's just you and me here, tell me how close the characters you create are to those you've read about and watched on either TV or the movies. Don't be nervous, it's just the two of us talking. Are your characters really yours? I don't mean to say you stole them. I just want you to examine how original they really are. Is their dialogue something you've already heard or already read? Their mannerisms? Think about it. And someday, when you least expect it, you'll understand what the Witches Brew of Writing is all about. So until next time, I wish you goodbye, and for heaven's sake,